Welcome back, friend. The name of that journalist and Presbyterian minister and editor and printer is Elijah Lovejoy. A mob actually took one of his printing presses and threw it in the river. He lived in Illinois, by the way, which was a free state, okay? But a pro-slavery mob would have none of his editorial position, and he got a new press, a very expensive press, and it was in a warehouse, and he and some of his friends were given permission by the mayor to defend it. Not that they needed his permission, but anyway, they had guns, but the mob surrounded it, kept throwing fire, lit the place on fire. When Elijah ran out to try and put out the fire, one of the mob murdered him, shot him dead, and they burned the building down, and they destroyed the press. So I have to go on this rabbit trail because it's interesting. One of my sons, some of my boys are reading the Rush Revere series, and I frankly cannot encourage you enough to get them for someone young. A brilliant job by Rush and his staff to weave history and childhood fantasy together. And I won't spoil it any more than that, but it involves time travel. My boys just can't put them down, literally. So if you're interested in children reading, if you're having trouble getting a person at that age level to read books, get them the Rush Revere series. So one of my sons said, Dad, if what happened at Lexington happened today, would the good guys win or would the government win? I said, now the good guys being the Patriots, okay? Lexington was the shot heard around the world. When the British went to Lexington, they were looking for two things. They were looking for John Adams, and they were looking for the guns and the powder that the Patriots were keeping. They were in Concord, and it was on the way to Concord that the Americans routed the British and gave them a lot of casualties, dead and wounded. So in Lexington, the British swept through, and I believe killed 7 people in Lexington Square. So one of my sons says, Dad, if that happened today, and bad people in the government were trying to kill good people, in that whole skirmish in Lexington and the Battle of Concord, who would win? And I said, well, tell me the differences today compared to then. And he said, the government has a lot better weapons than people do. And they have like tanks and things. I said, yeah, that's correct. And he said, and they can move faster than they used to be able to. Yes. Transportation, speed of movement, speed of mobility, roads, vehicles, helicopters, planes. And so we talked a little bit, and we talked about the speed of communication. Now, just pick up your cell phone, talk to somebody. So if you look at, and this is a little bit pedantic because I was talking to one of my sons who's very young, and this is a rabbit trail, but it's an interesting one. And it's interesting because there are a lot of good people in this country who believe that a revolution will be necessary to bring back and to secure our constitutional rights and our God-given rights, all right? We've covered that in this show. There was a poll taken by a major university, and over 40% of people polled believed that a revolution was going to be necessary. A bang-bang shooting revolution would be necessary to restore liberty. And I read those things, and I look at the polling questions, and I listen to some of the good men, patriots. I listen to what people are saying about the Second Amendment and the villains that are in our government. And and then they're quoting the Sons of Liberty and the committees of correspondence and the heroes and Paul Revere and Patrick Henry. And I'm thinking, guys, look at what happened with Bundy, the rancher out there, okay, where the federal agents backed off. One of the first times in our lifetimes that federal agents backed off. Every person who was on the ground, every human who was on the ground has had their emails gone through, their phone records gone through, the apparatus of the federal government to spy on us, to eavesdrop on us, to listen to us, to move quickly, the overwhelming force that the federal government has against its own citizenry would make a scenario like Lexington or Concord to be almost inconceivable. It's just the facts on the ground. The difference is that there are a lot of people in the military who are good people, good young men and women who would never obey the order to try and suppress a community, a city, a state, who would never obey an order to try and take the weapons of the citizenry, because it's an unlawful, not to mention ungodly order. I hope that this rabbit trail has been good for you, because remember, it's grammar, logic, rhetoric. It's knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Not just having facts, but knowing how to put them together, and then knowing where they lead and what we should do about them. I'll be right back. I have been a leader in the pro-life movement for 30 years, and sadly we have not prevailed in our goal to make it a criminal act to kill an unborn baby. There's reasons why we have failed. I wrote this book, A Humble Plea, to Catholic bishops, to evangelical clergy, and to lay people, explaining where we went wrong and what we have to do to prevail. We've made this available as a PDF online for free. I encourage you to go and download your own copy. Why does a nice guy like me keep getting thrown in jail? I have been arrested almost 50 times and spent over a year of my life locked up in various prison facilities. And I wrote a book, many books. In fact, one of them is called Why Does a Nice Guy Like Me Keep Getting Thrown in Jail? It's a theological work, answering those who say that the church should not be involved in politics or that we should retreat. I encourage you to get it. In fact, get one and give it to your pastor.